Hello everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Storytime with Harstem. Today I'm going to be telling you the story of how I accidentally became a pro gamer. And in order to do that we need to go back in time, about 8 years, where there was a tournament called DreamHack Summer 2012. It was part of the DreamHack Open Circuit and it was held in Jönköping. Now at the time I was in high school. Actually a fun fact about that was I wasn't a superstar in high school, let's put it like that. So it was a little bit tense of whether I would graduate my high school. At the end of the year we have these final exams and we all have to make them. If you fail enough of them you need to resit a couple, and if you fail those again then you have to redo the year. So DreamHack Summer was right at the time where the resit exams were. So basically what I did, I told my parents like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I made it. Like there's no way I didn't, right? And I didn't tell my team at the time that there was the possibility that if I failed my exams, I actually couldn't go to DreamHack Summer. I was like, no, I have nothing there. Just send me out. You know, my exams are over at that point. So I go to DreamHack Summer. My team sends me at the time. I was with Mouse Control, a small Dutch team. And I went by bus. There was this bus called Pack for DreamHack, in which a bunch of Dutch gamers went to the DreamHack to do whatever, play in the competitions or just enjoy, have the LAN experience that a DreamHack is. There's like 20,000 people, so it's always a pretty decent time for a lot of people. So we all went to DreamHack in this bus. Took like 15 hours. I'm in the back with a couple of other Dutch guys, like playing loud music over a tiny Bluetooth speaker, eating Haribo candy and crisps and whatever you have. So the proper lifestyle. And we arrived, I think it was like 5 or 6 a.m. like obviously insanely tired, only having slept 1 or 2 hours, and I think I might have had one more day of rest, but it's also possible that we actually had no days of rest and that I actually just had to play immediately. I honestly can't remember. But anyway, to get into the the first day that I was there, there was this player area upstairs where a lot of the players would sit to warm up before their games. It was like 30 PCs. You could plug in your keyboard, your mouse, etc. And you could warm up a bit before your group stage matches had to start. There's 3 group stages, I think 128 players. And yeah, I got put in the 3rd group stage. I think everyone started in the 3rd group stage back in that time. And then you had to go all the way to a single elimination bracket of like 16 players in the end. That was pretty much the end goal there. Now, I was there pretty early. I was like, ooh, cool. Let's try to set up ASAP, And 2 chairs to the left of me was Storytime, who at the time was the current DreamHack champion. He won DreamHack Stockholm, I think a month or 2 months prior, beating Polt in the final. So he pretty much was the man to beat. I want to say he was the best foreign Terran at the time. He was a big deal, let's put it like that. All right, he was a big deal. And I saw he was queuing up a ladder game, and I was 18. I was a little crap kid. I'm like, you know what I can do? I think my MMR isn't the highest, but I think if we queue at the same time, there's not that many other people laddering, I think I might be able to get him. So I queue up on the ladder and I get Thorzane, and back then I had this build where I get 3 bases very fast, I stay on 2 gas, I get 8 gate, and then I push with Zealot Stalker, pure Zealot Stalker, and just A move into his base and I pray that I win. And the funny thing of this build was that it really was good against 2 of the most obvious responses. So whenever Terran scouts a 3rd base, very often what they do is they either become very greedy and take a fast 3rd, or what they would do is they push out with pure Marine Marauder. And both of these things I would be very good against because I had so many units and I didn't actually probe up my 3rd base at all. The best thing for him to do was just to sit back and really not do anything. So we played this game, and back then everyone sucked, so you could actually win games with good build orders, rather than having to also need to have any type of mechanical skill, which back then I really didn't have that much of a mechanical skill. So I win the game. And obviously I'm pretty happy. And I look to my right and I just start smiling at him. And he was like, was that you? I'm like, yeah, it's me. And thinking back of that, that's obviously like a really weird thing to do. First of all, sniping someone on land that's 2 spots away from you without knowing the guy at all And then after you win, just staring at him and smiling at him and going like this with your eyebrows, you know? Like, he must have thought I was an absolutely complete idiot. But not only was Thorstein very good at StarCraft, he also was a very nice and kind guy. So instead of flipping me the bird and telling me to go suck it, he actually stood up and went over, shook my hand. I was like, hey, what's your name? And how are you doing? You know, it was a cool build you got there. And then I got very happy because I had some Progamer friends already, but they were all Dutch, or they got introduced to me through other people. But this was the first time where I kind of met another top guy, and I was like, man, he actually seems to like me, you know, we're getting along well. Like, this guy is so cool, and we're just like, he's a winner, and he's talking to me, cares about my build orders. And I think we spoke for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, maybe not even. In my head it was very long, obviously. And then we went on with our day, but yeah, I was feeling good, man. I beat the old tournament winner, so my confidence was absolutely insane. Like, I met the other Dutch guys that went, it was like, man, I absolutely destroyed Thorstein in a macro game at like 3 bases, and obviously not telling them the fact that I 8-gated him off of the 3 bases. But you know, sometimes some details are better to not be shared whatsoever. All right, let's move to the part where I actually play in the tournament. Because in my tournament, let's actually open the bracket. So in my tournament, this is group stage 1. I was seeded in a group with QXC. Where are you here? QXC, Harstem, Zangsala, and Zendo. I never heard of these 2 guys. I heard of QXC, so I only prepared for QXC. Got absolutely blasted. I think he bunker rushed me twice or something like that. Like some weird bunker rushes. QXC also, by the way, who even when I was a complete unknown, was extremely nice to me. It's very funny that to notice the people that even when you were basically a no-name were very kind to you. And I always really appreciated these guys just coming over, talking a bit about the games. And I've always, ever since that experience with both Thorstein and QXC, I've always tried to do that as well for newer players. Whenever I feel like someone might be uncomfortable, I just go over, have a little word, or after you beat them, just talk a couple of words. Like, these guys really extremely kind with their time, even though they were in the middle of a tournament. But yeah, anyway, back on track. This is my story. QXC slaughtered me. I said, that's okay, you know, I kind of expected that, that's all good. Second group stage, I'm not sure if it was on the same day, but I think so. This was played at 3 on the 16th of June 2012. And then we go to the next group stage, which I got put in a group with Thorstein. Yes, also on the same day. Okay, sick. Yeah, here. I got put in a group with Thorstein, Lelouch, and Humflux. You can already see the result. I actually managed to beat Thorstein, Lelouch, and Humflux. All of them I beat. And there's some good stories here. So I play against Thorstein, and we do the vetoes, and I'm just feeling good, you know. I've played some off race before. I remember playing a game with Zerk and feeling really fast. I'm like, man, I beat him earlier. Like, this is gonna be kind of easy, because back then in my head, whenever I beat someone one game, I would be able to always beat them. If I ever wanted to. Look at this, by the way. Cyril going out last in his group. That's fantastic. Actually beating Snoot. But, sorry. Back on track. It's my story, Cyril. Piss off. I play... I think the first map was Ohana. And I think I just played a really greedy 3-base into Charge Lot Archon, into what I, in my head, was absolutely genius. A 9 Colossus stack switch. So what I would do is I would hide 3 Robos, get a Robo Bay, and then save up 6 or 9 Colossus and then attack him before they got any Vikings. And it completely caught him off guard. I don't think he's ever seen something this dumb in his entire life. So I win the first game on Ohana. Second game is Daybreak. I remember he killed the rocks, and he just walked in and killed me with like his first 2 Medivacs. I had no chance whatsoever, just completely destroyed. I was like, alright, I see what you're gonna do. But I still had one special build left, and that special build was I would get a very fast 3-base, and then I would get a Dark Shrine behind it. And back then a Dark Shrine was insanely expensive, and it wasn't very common to see this. So he sees the 3rd base, and he's like, huh. I remember playing against this guy, and then he 8-gated me. So he plays very safe. He doesn't move out, doesn't do anything, but he doesn't get detection. So I have 3 bases. I walk in with 2 DTs, boom, bidon. I kill a bunch of his workers, and once again, bam, 3 Robos, 9 Colossus, go, completely destroy him. I was so happy. I beat him. I think it was my first match actually, so I still had to beat both Humflux who is misspelled over here. And I had to still beat Lalouche, who at the time was actually a very good Swedish Zerg player. And he also was known to have a bit of a temperament. And I remember thinking to myself, how can I abuse this temperament the most? So the first game I immortal in, and the moment I realized I win the game, I'm continuously dancing my units. But we're talking just the moment they stop dancing, I just bam, slash dance again. I keep dancing, keep dancing, keep dancing. Second game, he completely blasts me out of this world. Like, it's not even close. I think I tried some weird macro build. Back then my macros sucked so hard. I get completely blasted. Third game, immortal all in, and even though it's not necessary anymore, pop, 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 I dance my life away. And we were sitting opposite of each other, and I hear a smash, and then a couple of the guys go over, man, he completely smashed his keyboard. And obviously, I was a happy little kid. I was like, got this older guy than me to smash his keyboards. I was very happy. I beat Humflax 2-0, who wasn't that great. And I move on to the third group stage. And if you look at the names in the third group stage, you notice that back then, really a lot of the people were big names, you know? Like you see, like QXC didn't make it out of his second group stage. Mana, Protosser, Cytoplasm, Moro, Timaga Titan, Huck, Vampire. Like a lot of top guys went to the third group stage. Was actually a big deal. So at this point there was a bit of a buzz going around, and I actually remember there was a moment in the broadcast in DreamHack where In Control, who was at the desk at the time, went, "Who the fuck is this Harstem guy?" And I remember just people kept tweeting it at me and being like, "Man, who is this guy?" And I was like, "Man, I was really very happy with that. I was, really feeling it." So I went to bed. Next day, group stage 3, and here's where it gets interesting, because in group stage 3 I got put in a group with Bly, Mana, Nogrim, and myself. It's 4 players. You can already see that I shouldn't have shown the result. I'm an idiot. It doesn't matter. Let me just tell the story anyway. My first match is against Bly. I only know one strategy, and that's Immortal in. So I Immortal in him 3 times. We get some weird base trade scenarios, like some very, very odd ones. I just recall a game where I'm moving around with an Immortal all-in army with like 6 probes, and he's flying around with 3 mutas and it's like 10 roaches. But in the end I lose the game. I don't make it, but I do take a map, and map score is important in these round robin groups, as you can see already. My next match is against Mana, and I remember, actually I can't remember game 1 and 2 at all. I probably won one game with a Colossus all-in because I did that every single game. And then on Antigua Shipyard I remember doing a 4-gate blink build. I was like, man, 4-gate blink is really sick. And at the time, it almost always 4-gate blink beat Robo Expand. There was no batteries, there was no mothership core, so you had a very good chance to just straight up beat it. And he was doing Robo Expand, so I see this build, and I build my pylon close to his base, of course, with the fast warp in, and I warp in like 2 zealots and 2 stalkers, and I already have 3 stalkers there, and he has 1 stalker and 1 immortal or something like that. And instead of attacking my units or moving back home, he just right clicks the pylon and he prays to God he gets the pylon before the warping gets off. Because if the warping gets off, he's gonna lose his immortal, he's gonna lose all his units, and with that he's definitely gonna lose the game. And in like the last millisecond, he snipes my pylon. And my warping doesn't go through. I build a new pylon, but it's all terrible, it's all over for me at that point. So I leave the game. I go over to him, I'm like, man, why would you do that? Like, what if it didn't work? Like, wouldn't you have lost? And he just goes, but it did work. I'm like, yeah, sure, but wouldn't you have lost? He's like, it doesn't matter. I won. And that was my first time I ever truly got introduced with the idea that theory doesn't really matter if the other guy just wins the game. Here I was just thinking, man, these build orders are good for me, and he just won. And that's really what Mana back then already was good at. He still is fantastic at winning. But yeah, anyway, I'm 0-2 in my group, and I thought I was out at the time. I wasn't that great at math, like I said. My high school period wasn't brilliant, so I just Immortal in Nogrim 3 more times. I win 2-1. Nogrim, who was, by the way, pretty decent Zerg. And then magically, through map score, I have 4-4, because I took a map against everyone. And the other 2 guys have a worse map score. And I can make it through the third group stage, and I actually make it into the bracket. And at this point, I actually start playing against Freyr. Or I have to play against Freyr. And now Freyr was a Ukrainian Protoss player who had very odd game styles. Like he played different than other people. He was a very, very good Pro Tools. Don't get me wrong. He was very, very good. You see, he got first in his group here as well, beating Puma, Cytoplasm, Vampire, who were all top players at the time. Who did he beat in his previous group? Let's see if we can find that. Like Freyr actually was a beast. Yeah, here he beat Slivko, Dystar, Devil, also pretty decent players. So I'm like, all right. I need to figure something out. I think I had a day to prepare, and then there was this. I think he's a Swedish jerk who also was at a tournament called Saplo. Now Saplo, he was a big cheeser. All right, he knew how to win games without having to work for it. Yeah, he finished his group here. Where was Saplo? Who did he lose to? Show me. Okay, he lost in a pretty rough group, and he was like, all right, I have a build for you. This is a 2-gate forge, and you just cannon rush, and then you send zealots into your opponent's base. And he said, I think it's really good in Metalopolis because you can put it in the middle, and then no matter which of the 2 bases he spawns at, you can play this build, and it's really, really strong. It's hard to scout. I think you should do it. So I'm like, okay, sick. And I wanted to practice this build so bad, but a thing that Freyr did, which I think actually, I'm not sure if he did it or if his manager just did it by himself, but his manager just sat behind my PC for like 5 hours straight when I was practicing, so I couldn't practice any strategies. And back then PvP was way more strategy based than it is now, so it's really difficult to do that. And he just sat there looking at my screen, so it felt like no matter what I was going to do, I could do nothing. So that entire day I was very, very upset. So I woke up early the next morning at like maybe half an hour before his manager showed up again, and I played like maybe a couple of games playing this strategy, but I didn't feel very comfortable with it. So I have my my match against Freyr, round of 16, and I win 1 game on Ohana with a crazy base trade. I do my Colossus all in that I do every single game. I really only had like 4 builds in total, and I just kept repeating them again and again. Immortal in against Zerg, that's all I did. I had my DT build against Terran, my 8-gate build against Terran, and then in PvP I would literally just Immortal Colossus all in like 95% of all my games, and otherwise 4-gate Blink all in. Right, where was I? Yeah, so I win a game like that, he beats me in some other way, I don't know, probably turn into a macro game and I can't play those. And then the 3rd game is Metalopolis, and I'm like, alright, it's time to pull out this strategy. And I send in my probe, build the cannons, my zealots are defending the cannons, and it's actually going perfect. Like, I'm behind this mineral line and I have like 2 cannons done. I'm like, okay, this is actually over, like there's nothing he can do. But then he pulls 2 stalkers down and he kills the pylon that was powering my buildings. And I couldn't do anything about it because I wasn't experienced enough to know that I needed another pylon. So just the lack of practice with the build, just the fact that I only could play it 3 or 4 times, I lose that game, got kicked out of the tournament. You see, 2-1. Wait, Metropolis was 2nd. I didn't remember that. So yeah, I won the 1st game on Ohana. Well, I can't remember what happened on Cloud Kingdom. I must have been so broken, I can't even remember that game anymore. Then Freyr went on to beat Sase as well, and then lost to Dimaga. Mana won in the finals, 3-1. And then after this tournament, obviously I made a pretty decent splash. You know, I beat Torzane, I got through the 3rd group stage, albeit with a bit of luck. I almost got out of my round of 16 match as well, and I had a couple of offers. Acer, I think, offered me, I want to say it was 200 euros, and I think they would give me a laptop, 200 euros a month back then, and they would give me travel support, so they'd pay for my tournaments and stuff like that. And there was Fnatic as well, which Fnatic, in my mind, was a bigger name. And something that stood out to me at the tournament was that I forgot to mention it, but the day before I had to play Freyr, Todd came up to me and he just started talking to me and basically just trying, like, I was very nervous, you know, for the next day, especially because I couldn't practice. And Todd just came up to me and he ate with me, just me and him together, and he just tried to calm me down for a very long time. He just sat there, I think for 2 or 3 hours. Todd just spoke with me, was like, hey, like you got it, man, like you've been putting up good results, and just spoke about strategy and about other things, and I really appreciated that by Todd. I thought it was really, really cool, especially because he lost in the tournament a bit earlier and he came over to me, and yeah, so and Todd back then was in Fnatic, so I felt like a stronger connection with Fnatic, who I think offered me $400 a month to play in their academy team and travel support and the possibility to go to their Korean house, which they had. So I was like, all right, that's it. $400. My new life is starting right now. So I come back home, I tell my parents, Mom, Dad, university is for losers. I'm gonna make $400 a month playing video games. And they're like, all right, son, that sounds great. And that is how I accidentally became a pro gamer. Yeah, all right. Hey, there we go. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful story. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel up here. If you like my new hair. Tough luck tomorrow, I can't be bothered, but I figured for such an important story, I better do my hair. So, thanks all for watching. Thumbs up. Bye bye. Love you all. Ciao.